this is the formal welcome to our already third Tech Talk. The Tech Talks are our format where we explore the future of work at the intersection with technology. And as you've seen in our last sessions, we always end up also talking about culture. So this is also something we have brought to this session today, where we will talk about how data can be used to create a great workplace or to shake up your workplace. And why did I say create a great workplace? Because one of our guests is Hermann from Great Place to Work. I'm super excited that he's joining us. And I'm also super excited that Clarissa Vollmeier from Cisco is also joining us again. Some of you already know her from our session about video culture, where, you know, back then, last year, we were all trying to get each other to turn on the camera so we can see each other and feel connected. Now that we've entered the stage of Zoom fatigue, that's maybe a little different, a different conversation, but I'm super happy to see a lot of you on video. As usually, our sessions will be recorded, so you can choose to turn off or on your camera as you want. In the video, in the end, there's only a few people going to be visible anyway. And the flow of the session is going to be that Clarissa and Michael will give a short intro, and then we will have a lot of time for your questions. But as always, if there's anything that's super urgent that you need to understand better, please drop it in the chat, and then we can pick it up in the meantime as well. And I will flip down here to the Mentimeter. And let's see your votes.
You know what, but I'm on the Mentimeter and now there is a poll. Okay, sorry.
Yes, exactly. Now the poll is active. So let's take 1 minute to answer the question. How is your company using any type of workplace data, infrastructure, tools, meeting rooms, or also employee data? Can also be employee surveys for sure. Link is coming up. You can also see it in my screen up here. It's maybe a bit cut off. So it's menti.com. And this is the code. And I always forget to do that, to introduce myself. I'm Isabel from Shake Up the Workplace. And I'm super excited to host a session for you guys today. And I really look forward to also chatting with you later about workplace data and how you want to shake up your workplaces. Okay, so answers are coming in at the moment. I don't know. Very interesting also a topic we want to touch upon. Privacy topics, how do you communicate when you use data? I think also that's a hint for our two speakers to talk about this. And then also we have some people, yes, who are very systematic when it comes to data. Super interested to hear from those of you later who do that. And then obviously sometimes. Also, hello to everybody who joined in the meantime. We have just gotten started with our third Tech Talk. We took the time to dive into this Mentimeter, and we're just about to find out how you guys are using data at your company. So if you want to take part, do that quickly now. So we can collect your answers as well, and then we'll get started with our two speakers. Yay, okay, good. Super. I will leave this open a bit, but I want to pass the baton over to Clarissa and Michael for their presentation. And as I said, if there is any questions that are super urgent, please feel free to drop them in the chat. In the meantime, let's all be on mute. And then later for the discussion, we invite you totally to unmute yourself, ask the questions, be on camera. And I wish us all the best time.
Thank you, Isabel. Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm the one now taking over from you. My name is Clarissa. So glad to see so many people and so many people on video. I'm from Cisco, and as Isabel was just introducing us, Michael is with us from Great Place to Work, and the two of us are gonna lead you through the session today. So welcome again from my side, and I'm very much looking forward to the hour ahead of us. When it comes to the agenda, what we had thought of doing was to go through the following 4 points. So first of all, setting up the stage, meaning why are we talking about shaking up the workplace, reinventing the workplace? Why is that relevant for the time we are living in? We're then going to move over and look at the data in the context of culture, employees, and experience, because those two topics are paramount for a successful shaking up or reinventation of your workspace. We are then gonna look at a demo. In fact, there will be two colleagues of mine, Ingvild and Anne-Marie, joining from our office in Oslo, who are gonna give you a insight on how we have shaken up our workspace, and so a state of the art of what this employee experience can look like. And at the end, Q&A, as Isabel was saying. So if possible, just make sure that anytime you have a question, you post them into the chat. So at the bottom right of your screen or your monitor, and we're going to look at them at the very end, just to make sure that we have enough time to cover all the material that we have prepared for you, and make sure that we make the best out of your time. However, if you think that your question is just preventing you from understanding any further, just unmute and go ahead. I think that's also the nice setting of those tech talks from Shake Up the Workplace. Very family friendly, very informal. So just take your judgment, look at what fits for you, and go ahead with the posting or asking a question via voice. So before I'm gonna move over to basically setting up the stage, I would like to go a step back and basically give you a reason why we think Cisco and Great Place to Work fit well in this thematic, fit well in this topic, and why we are talking to you. And for that, I'm gonna let Michael just comment on this slide.
Great, thanks, and welcome also from my side. My name is Michael from Great Place to Work. And let me quickly introduce the two organizations and the reason also why we are getting together today. So Great Place to Work is very much about what is in our name. We want to help companies to find out where they are as a workplace, how they can become great. And you might know us maybe for the third part of our business, where we also want to give recognition to those that do a great job. And that's also the relation that we have to Cisco. So Cisco is among those best workplaces that we have, among those companies that work with us to understand and develop their culture. And I have to admit, we are highly impressed about the continuity, about the quality, and about the global reach of the Cisco culture. So Cisco is among the very best companies for years now in Switzerland, but also in other countries. And it's great to be good once, but it's really impressive, or it's difficult to be great on a long term. And that also probably means that you need to build a good culture and need to establish it with all your people. If you have that, on the other hand, then you can also use that as a great basis to do new things, to test new things, to try working in different ways. And that's also what Clarissa will show us more about, the ways and opportunities they use at Cisco.
Super, thank you. Moving to the first point, so why we need to shake up the workplace and how culture and technology play a role on that. There has been, through the pandemic, a lot of studies, a lot of research around how things have changed, because it has been a very strong moment of change for all of us. Many of us probably are working from home since more than a year now, and so those analyses are serving us on company all over the world to understand what are the implications post-COVID. And all those studies actually comes all to one conclusion, which is the future is going to be a hybrid, meaning there will be a hybrid model that is going to be future-proof, so to say. With hybrid, it means there will be no home office permanently staying as the only place where office is going to take, work is going to take place, as well as your office itself is not going to be the only place where work is accepted. So there is a need for merging those two words together. There has been tons of researchers, to just name a few, that stood out for me is the first one saying that 90% expect meetings will have at least one remote worker in it. So you need to rethink how you can enable this collaboration to happen so that everyone is feeling included, everyone has a voice on the table, no matter where they're joining from. A second nice result is about 54% of people saying that, or companies saying that they will adopt remote work as a permanent option. So if pre-COVID, we were talking about flexible working, which was much more of a limited vision of a hybrid working, where either certain division could do that, let's think about white collars, or just a specific day of the week, home office was allowed. Let's think about the classic home office Friday. Now home office has become much more pervasive, and it's down to the individual to choose where and how they can work to give the best version of themselves and be productive no matter what. And the last one is the increase of flexibility post-pandemic, which is exactly tied to what I've just said. The need and the necessity to provide much more flexible and autonomy to the individuals to choose where they work from, so that they can create habits and patterns that best fit to how they work and how they are. So on all that, looking at the implication in the workplace physically, there is also another study. This one comes from McKinsey, where basically they are looking at meeting rooms pre-COVID, where they were seeing that less than 10% of all the meeting rooms included a video collaboration technology, and they predict that post-COVID, this will go up to 80%. So the necessity to have location in the office where collaboration can happen, also with people outside of the office, has become very much important. In all this, it really means that location per se is actually losing importance, because you should work from wherever you want. And what it becomes more important is the individual choice. This leads to two elements that are very, very important. On one side, the technology to make collaboration happen anyway, even if the people are not in the same place, and culture. And on culture, I'll give it over to Michael.
Thanks. And as Clarissa said, she will go deeper, and Cisco will show us more on the technology side. So I'm looking now more into the culture aspect of that way of working together. And let me start with a quick picture one of our clients painted a while ago, while he needed to convince his management about why is culture important. And in the beginning, it's always about, yeah, we have marketing to do, we have sales to do, we have to take care of clients. All those things are what management is busy about. So culture then comes as a soft factor, sometimes more, sometimes less relevant. But that guy who was head of HR for a hospital decided at weekend, when he was painting with his kids, he needs to bring it to an emotional perspective. And that picture should express in some way, you can do the management by just working around, jumping around, having some seats every now and then, and coming back after 1 year and looking for the results for your food, so to say. Or you can make sure as an organization that you really take care of what you want to grow. Means constantly looking for it, taking care of what the weather looks like, what the soil is like, and all those, let's say, insights that help you to grow a stable tree or to grow your culture. So if we're talking about culture, it's about having a stable, good thing for the future, but also about understanding it all the way through. That also means that you probably have to cut some tree parts every now and then. So it doesn't mean that you just make sure everybody feels fine all the time. It's also about clear rules, and it's also about values and how do you make sure that they happen and stay alive. So on the next page, I want to quickly bring together, when we think about digital transformation, when we think about getting organizational to the next step, what is important for them. And on one side, on the right side, of course, it's about processes, about the ways how you work together. That's also where technology comes in. You need to find a setup that really works, that doesn't annoy people, that makes sure that you can take the best out of the working time. You also need to make sure that it fits to the customers. For example, a hospital has completely different needs at that level than an IT organization. An organization that is depending on client direct interaction in retail or sales has a different need. So all those things might create different situations. You need to take them into account, and then also look at what kind of data you can collect. to understand your situation. And that's our perspective from Great Place to Work. Most of all, you also need to look into the culture of your organization to make sure the tools, the data are used in a good way, the tools are accepted, and also to refer to what Clarissa brought up. If we face a future where people are in different locations working together in one meeting, how can you ensure that they really listen to each other in the same way? That, let's say, the important part of decisions are really made together and not then afterwards when some people are not joining anymore. So all those things are the basis of your culture, and those are the things that you need to take care of to really make sure you can adapt to that future way of working. Next one. So we'll now have a quick look at some of the, let's say, data points and also client experiences. And that's just a broad collection what we see, what is happening in organizations. On the left side, you see some data they collect about market feedback, sales data. I would say everybody does that or has to do that. It's also about PR and marketing, social media research. So you want to understand what's happening out there. It's about process feedbacks, about production times, quality that happens. So all those topics are data points. On the right side, I would say there are the more people-related things. Of course, you look into the salaries of your people, try to get them fair, but you also try to understand what's happening with different groups of people. For example, in Corona times, how do people with family react versus other younger colleagues that might just miss the interaction? So it's different challenges. You need to understand them. And I would say as a motto, above everything, you should make sure as an organization that your insights are perceived as help for your employees and not just as control. The moment it just turns into feeling controlled, it gets very tricky to make that a strong and stable culture. People might feel afraid and then also start tricking around with data. That's not what you want. So you need to make sure it's help and not control. And that's not an easy thing. If I look at the requests that we get, we see companies asking us if we can analyze the speed of typing, and then you find out people are typing slower after lunch break. So is then the decision to cut off the lunch break? Doesn't really make sense. We see organizations trying to measure the speed of your eye movement from your laptop. Again, you can find out how engaged people are, but that's not the way people perceive as help. That's just the bad side of control. And luckily not in Switzerland, but we will face all those challenges in the future. So we need to decide about what is really helpful and what is just into getting data or getting control. Good. Next one. From our perspective, it's very much about trust and not just about control. So you need to create a culture where people trust each other, where they work together, because that's kind of the basis to be also innovative. That's what I want to impress with the picture on the right side. You want to see employees trying new things, trying strange things like the invisible naked man with flip-flops. You need to have a culture where people try something new, where people are not afraid of mistakes. And that's one of the, let's say, basis to build those next steps. When we work with organizations, we look into different methodologies to analyze where they come from. And one is what we call the trust index. That's different tools and different items all related to what kind of trust is already there in an organization with regards to fairness, credibility, respect of people, camaraderie among each other, and also pride toward what they do together as an organization. We also tend to look at the other side, so what we call the culture audit. These are the activities, the measures that companies have in place to make sure that culture becomes alive. That gives us great insights on some best practices, and might pick that up again for the Q&A session at the end. But that's the place where we get those insights, and I want to show you a few more data on what we see, what is important for employees in Switzerland. So what are the drivers of trust, so to say? And we see when we analyze our data, it's about 150 organizations in Switzerland that we surveyed in last year, about 4,000 in Europe and 12,000 globally. Top three things are a sense of purpose and pride. So that's not just the story in the news, but it's really that we see people are more into what is it, what we are doing together. Is that purpose and meaningful? It's also about open communication style from the management, but also transparency among employees and everyone. And there again, video chats, for example, different styles have become very important to ensure time-close informations. And it's about people-centered leadership. So does management really take care of people, or are they just into the results, just into solving problems, or really looking into the needs of the employees and to make sure that they have a good work environment to be and to give the best. I don't go into all the details, but let's have a look at the next one. Next page. That's just again quick story about how to use data. I give you a few seconds to look at it. When you start analyzing your organizations, you sometimes might find out things you don't like. Sometimes might find out things that don't run smooth at the moment. And there's one way, just to don't do it anymore. That takes away some trouble, so to say, but it doesn't solve the issue. And that's what we want to impress. It's not about just collecting data and just insights or criticizing management for specific things. It's about creating a workplace together that helps you to be successful for the future. Next page. And there we see really big differences between the organizations. So if you look at the topic of vision and values, one of the things that we defined are important for new workplace culture. The best ones get to about 78 commitment or 78% positive feedback on that topic, on the question. The other ones, 55%. That means half of the employees have the feeling the organization has no idea where they're going. And that's not easy to get your people aligned into one direction if about half of them don't know where we are going. Second one is about innovation. How does management react to ideas? Again, for the average organization, it's about half of the good ideas that just get lost, never taken care of. Purpose and pride. At the best organizations, 86% really say, yes, it has a meaning to me. At the other ones, 2/3. That's already good. That also means most people also search and create a value in what they do. But then again, it's about 1/3 of the people who are probably willingness to leave your organization just for more purpose anywhere else. And we have one overall item. How do you react or how do you perceive your workplace culture? The best ones is 87%. We saw it for Cisco, even higher there. The average for the country, again, is about 2/3. That means 1/3 of your employees are probably thinking about leaving, going to another place. We just had some research about what's going to happen after COVID. So many companies are kind of afraid that they didn't do a good job of taking care of the people in the last month. And they are also kind of afraid what happens the moment when economy gets stable again and when companies or people start looking around again. Good. To close that part, maybe one more page with a quick impression. It's not just about numbers in the end. It's very much about how is your organization successful. And there we broke it down to those organizations that we award as Great Place to Work versus other organizations about what is the turnover in those organizations. And you see that's data from the US where we have them, let's say, also shareholder oriented or where all those information are more transparent for larger organizations. In hospitality, for example, about half of the employee or staff is leaving and turning around every year. If you reduce that to 28%, that's also an impressive less amount of work of recruiting new people, more stability. Still, that are very high rates of turnover. Switzerland technology, IT industry is about 5 to 8% what we see here. But again, if you are into an industry where you have to struggle to find people, it's really a business case to take care of the people because it's very expensive to lose them and to hire them again. So we recommend you take care of them right in time. It will create more success and also keep your people on board. With that, I close on the last page, Clarissa. So again, it's not just about the numbers. We also see it in the business case, in the business story, in the profit, and also in the shareholder return. So the stock performance, those organizations that created a great place to work are much more successful than the other ones. That's not because they work with us, but we really see those are the organizations that have a great culture. We can prove that for them, and they are much more successful because they can drive innovation and find good ways of working together. Good. Thanks for that. More time, I guess, in Q&A, and then I hand back to Clarissa for some more insights and then the demo.
Perfect. Thank you a lot. Maybe just on one note to Isabel, it seems that the Oslo team has some issues in joining the meeting. I don't know if you or Inka can take this over.
We are here.
Ah, perfect. Okay, great. Nice, cool. Okay, I'm gonna just take other 10 minutes and then I will pass it over to you, Anne-Marie, if that's okay. Perfect. So exactly going on the line of what Michael was saying on the return on investment, I wanted to just build a quick build a case around hybrid workplace as well. So if we want to work on investing on our culture and having a strong trust-based culture, you may also want to look into reinventing the workplace, as we have seen, adopting video endpoints in your meeting rooms to enable that everyone can work together, provide a platform that works both in the office as well as at home so that people can collaborate and co-create together without any problem. And all of that might be seen as a cost, but at the same time, actually, it's more of an investment with a lot of benefits that come back to you. And I just wanted to highlight a couple of those. For example, the real estate optimization, the fact that your building can be optimized and reshuffled, providing some more space that you can, for example, sub-rent to someone else. This is something that a lot of companies at the moment rethinking and starting to thinking how they return to the office are telling us. They want to reduce the amount of square meters that they provide to the employees, given that a lot of them will be also working from home, so you won't have 100% your workforce in the office anymore. And so use those spaces to create some new kind of revenue streams, if you want, for you. The second one is the reduced travel spend. So the fact that you don't have to commute to go to work, it will also lead to increased productivity. You need to commute less, and you're also working there where you think it best fits to your own needs. Because your productivity increases, your turnover is also decreases. You are productive. You think you're giving the best of yourself, so you are less willing to leave the company because you're very satisfied with the work you're doing. And then, of course, organizational agility, for the fact that, very simple said, if there will be a new pandemic, which no one is hoping about, you are better fit and better prepared to handle the situation in a very controlled and thoughtful way. When it comes to Cisco, for those of you that don't know us very much, we have a very broad portfolio of solution to enable this collaboration to happen in the workspace. So we are covering all type of rooms, whether we are talking about very small huddle rooms or big auditorium rooms, as well as any type of activity-based collaborations, scenarios, ideation, communication, integration. And so if you want to think about a very inclusive workspace where we are working on a trust-based culture, so it doesn't matter where you work from, or what matters is the outcome of your work, you might think of having those devices in your meeting room so that collaboration can happen at any time in a very easy way. And here's where the interesting part comes around data. Yeah, so shake up the workplace. So reshuffling your workplace is one thing, but the data that you can use to do that also plays a role. And all those solutions that we offer have built-in sensors. So sensor that enables you to understand your workspace better and monitor comfort and productivity, as well as safety, sociality. So people come back into the office actually because most of the time they miss the social part of it. And then to communicate and keep a culture vibrant and living in the office as well. So you don't have to get those sensors or additional gadgets. Everything is in the solution that we provide. In terms of what type of data we collect, so we have different type of data. So people sensors is one of them that contains presence sensing, people detection, and also face detection if the IT admin and the end user wants it. Very important. On the presence sensing, is all about ultrasound signals that basically are always on and indicates if there is any movement in the room. So if there are any people around in the room. You then have people detection, which basically provides granularity to this presence sensing that understand how many people are in the rooms exactly, and you don't have to look at the camera to be collected as a person. It also works with a mask on, or it also works if you're showing your body to the camera. And then the last one is a face detection if you want it. And on that one, just to be very proactive on the privacy part, the approach of Cisco on this is pretty much different to the usual one. So normally when it comes to face detection, you have your pictures flying around in the cloud, and artificial intelligence, so an intelligence artificially made, will look at matching a picture that they have already stored of you with a new one that you have that has been detected from you. The approach from Cisco is very different. So we're working actually on mathematical representation of your face. For example, the distance between my lips and my nose, or the distance between my eyes, those are the data that we collect. And with that, we create a known identity that will then compare with your face popping up in a meeting as the meeting starts. And for that, to get that known identity collected, you need to opt in as a person. And also the IT admin can choose whether they want to enable that for everyone or not. So this is just to give you a couple of ideas of how we collect data around people. And why is that important? We will gonna look this in a minute with the Oslo, but just in general, you can think about room utilization, because you understand how many people are in the room, and if a room is used or not, you can start becoming much more intelligent on providing the right room setup for the people that are working there. So if you have set up a room for 2 people, but you see that it's always being used for 5, then you might think about adding a couple of more chairs in that room, or redefining and redesigning that specific room. You can also start thinking of giving alerts if there are too many people in the room, and so safety becomes an issue. You can use the monitor to give communication that goes beyond being just a black screen. So you're using that screen for much more than just sharing when you are in the room. And on the face detection piece, you can imagine having digital tag name on every person in the room. So if I'm the one joining remotely, and you all of you are in the same room, physically present, for me it would be difficult to understand who is who. So if you have enabled face detection, I can get a naming of each of you on each face, and I can quickly understand who is who and address you if I need to. Another type of data that we collect is sound sensors. So simply here is about making a difference between ambient noises and overall noises. And this is important to understand and make the difference between useful sound and not useful sound, so that the active speaker, so the people and the person that is actively speaking will be sent over, versus all the rest will be eliminated, so that you have a much better experience when it comes to your productivity and your collaboration. And then on this, there is also the room acoustic. This is all around reverberation. So reverberation is a lot around measuring also the fatigue in the room. I'm not going to go into the detail of that, but it is more or less data that help you become, or providing a room and a space that makes people feel at ease. And the last set of data, before I'll hand over to my colleagues in Oslo, are all a set of data around environmental sensors. So let's think about air quality, light, temperature, humidity. They're an organization that defines the standard of what healthy workplace should look like. And so if you use our video endpoint and our technology in our platform, you will be able to always understand where you are and where the gaps are, that you can then address to improve the environment in the office, make it healthier, make it a place which is much more productive, making it a place where people want to go back, and where they feel at their ease when they work. With that, I would like to hand it over to Anne-Marie and Ingrid, which will give you a very nice demonstration of how the place or new place to work can look like. From Oslo, over to you, Anne-Marie.
Thank you very much, Clarissa. So good to see all of you guys, and welcome to Oslo and Norway. My name is Anna-Maria. I will also show you guys, like in action, a few of the things that Clarissa was talking about. We have been facing back to the office here in Oslo, and we want to do that in a safe way. I will show you things now in my background in a little bit. So if you guys have that grid layout right now where you see everyone in the same size, I suggest that you go to your top right and change that layout and choose maybe stack or stage, so you see me in large, well, not me, but the things that I will show you later on in my background. I wanted to first start a little bit by talking about how we are going back here to the office in Oslo. Obviously, a lot of things have changed. We see here on these displays that I have behind me, we use them to call people, right, on video. So we see signage. So when they're not in use, they're reminding us to keep distance and the new rules that we have. And this, of course, changes all the time, right? One day it's 2 meters, next day it's 1 meter. And yeah, looking forward to the day it will say that, go and hug your colleagues, right? I can also show you, I've called you, by the way, from a camera pointing at the meeting room, right? So you kind of get the feeling that you're now sitting together with me here in the meeting room. And we also have all those sensors in this room that Clarissa was talking about. Many of them are actually in the touch panel or the control panel that we have on the table right here. I have now booked a meeting in my normal calendar, right? Office 365 or could be anything really. And now when this meeting is about to begin, I could of course press the green button to start it. But I see that many of my colleagues, they're a bit worried about sharing touchscreens these days, right? And we want to make sure that everyone feels safe. So instead of touching this one, I can talk to the system and say, okay, WebEx, join my meeting.
Got it. Joining the meeting.
So without touching anything, I'm able to call up to a couple of my closest friends. It's a live call, right? But we have restrictions on how many people we're allowed to be and so on. So that's why I'm calling up to Odin and Elena. They even have names. And we also have rules here for how many people that we're allowed to be in each space. The space that I'm sitting in right now, that is typically a space for 8 people, but now we're allowed to be 4 people in here. So I'm obviously following the rules, but I could also set a new rule and kind of just trick the system here into thinking that we're not allowed to be people here. And then we will see notifications popping up. So I will just show how that looks like. So I'll just zoom in on the area where the notifications will appear. So I'm setting a new rule right now. There we go. So we can see room capacity limit has been reached. And that also shows up on the table navigator or table control panel that I have in the room here as well. Now, this message will keep constantly appearing again and again. So I'll just set it back to 4 so we don't annoy anyone. This is just a kind reminder, right? It's a soft reminder, but we also have an option to take that one step further and then set a rule. We say for this room, if this message comes up 4 times in 1 minute, right? We then send a message to facility or security. Maybe someone needed to come up here and drag me out by my feet, right? In order to get me to follow the rules. So that is quite cool. Okay. We also see, by the way, that everything that I'm saying is actually appearing in text as well. So this is something that we also can do. It works even when you have a Scandinavian accent, and I really like that. So I can just end this call very quickly here and talk a bit more about the sensors, because that's a really hot topic and important for many. So I'll just zoom in a bit more on the navigator. We have a lot of buttons here. It's customizable, this control panel. So we of course use it to call and share screen or book the room. And I've added some additional ones here. Like we can call other like Microsoft Teams or Zoom, for example. We also have call nurse for a demo. And then my personal favorite, order food from the canteen directly from the meeting room. So that is pretty cool. We were talking earlier about the sensors. And I have also just enabled an option to view them directly from this panel. So we have sensors in this device here that comes with the system that tells us that it's 23.4 Celsius right here now, 17% humidity. We will also add air quality and light, and we also have sound level here. And we can also, of course, see the people count. So we know that there is one person in this room right now, and this is being counted by the camera that we have here. So all of these metrics and stats here and the data that we see here, that tells us something about my comfort level in this room right now while I'm using it, right? And that is a important thing. But of course, not only to just show it on the panel here, what we would need is a dashboard where an administrator or facilities are able to see these statistics. And we have that as well. So I can just quickly share content with you guys. So you get to see what it looks like kind of in action here. And I'll just share that in call. All right, so here we go. This is the dashboard. There is a lot of things we can do here, but I'm just going to focus on the sensors that we had. So I'll go in and search for the room that I am sitting in right now. So when we go here, we can see that we have a bunch of data right here. I'll just focus on the environmental metrics. We can use temperature as an example. And temperature is really important. People tend to use the room a lot less if it's too warm or too cold. So it is important that the room gets used, obviously, right? So here we can see now the temperature within the last 24 hours. We can change this to Fahrenheit as well. Hopefully most of you guys are fine with Celsius. And we can also get historical data on this as well. What has it been like the last 7 days or the last 30 days as well? So this tells us obviously about the comfort level, but it also can tell us something about, can facilities potentially save some cost here, right? Are we really, you know, pumping the air conditioning way too much during the night when no one is using the office at all? We can also, I saw that we had a little error message here as well, or a little alert that they actually thought it was too dry in this office here. And I mean, this building is kind of officially a bit close as well, right? So maybe that's totally fine here that we had like 10% within the last, at some point in the last time. So these are just some of the things that we can see from here. We can extract this data and understand not only for the technical things that we have in the room, like the video system that I have behind me, but basically the whole space. All right, I think that was 10 minutes, Clarissa. I think that was what I was going to do. Anything that you want me to add or talk more about?
Thank you so much, Anne-Marie. That was, I think we are perfect on time. If there is any any question that someone wants to ask directly to Anne-Marie, you can do that now. Otherwise, we will move it over to unmuting everyone and have a conversation without Anne-Marie staying in the meeting. I see tons of chat and messages, but I was just following what Anne-Marie was saying and showing. But I will go back to the questions. Anything you want to say at the moment?
I'm happy to take any questions.
Yeah, maybe I'll just jump in on behalf of Christina, who is asking Anne-Marie, is there a way to still like manually change the temperature while it's now everything is connected and you can use it over the control pad? Is there, I don't know if there's a power cut or anything. Well, without power, it probably would be difficult, but is there a manual way also to regulate, like in the good old days?
Yeah, so actually, as of now, I don't have the option to control the temperature in this room directly from the touch. I just had it there to show you guys. But we are working on things like that you have option to control more things. Now, what will happen if there is, let's say it's way too cold in this room and we get alerts on this, then we will also, we're working on adding options to control the temperature directly from that room as well. But as of now, we see it and we can make decisions based on the data that we see, but we don't have the option today to control it.
Thank you.
Basically, to answer to the question again, or to highlight again and reiterate, you can still have the manual way of doing things. What we are providing is just a way to get insight of what is temperature, but the rest can all still be in your hands and be manually edited. It's just about getting understanding of where the gaps are or where the improvements can be done.
And I think for most people, it's not really, even though this is customizable, I had a lot of buttons there. I always advise people to only do the simplest way, right? That is our main focus always when we develop here. This building that I'm in, it's a bunch of developers working here. And the idea is not that we put a bazillion things on the control panels. We have the option to control, for example, the lights from it. But for me as an end user, if I walk into a dark room, I often look next to the door, there is a light switch, right? And that feels very natural for us to use. So we can still use this only for a few things, and then we have other controls to do everything else in the room.
Cool, thank you. Agnieszka, is your question directed at Anne-Marie?
Probably yes. That's why maybe I want to ask. I love the section about managing people in a room, including face recognition. I think it's very futuristic. And my question is, I mean, futuristic with big potential in terms of managing inclusiveness of the people being in-house or remote. Is this product already used by some companies, like especially in Europe? I know normally there would be data protection issues. I know in Europe we very often are overprotective, but is this already used by some of the clients?
Yeah, it is. So face detection and speech recognition, I mean, that's already in use. And everything that we're doing there, we're following the GDPR laws. And also important to say is that this is optional, right? So I have actively gone in and ticked off or show my name label. You can also add show my title as well if you want to do that. So, but you can choose to turn it off as well. That's up to the end user.
Probably up to the organization. And
yes, you can turn it off. You can turn it off for the whole organization. But if you turn it, let's say you turn it on the whole organization, each individual still have the option to choose themselves.
Okay, that sounds practical and safer. Yeah. Okay, because some people may be concerned, but I think it's a time of adjustment for all of us. Thank you. I love the presentation. It's really cool. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thanks. And I think, Sophie, I will pass the ball to you. But Anne-Marie, if you have to go, I know that you squeezed us in. So we're super grateful for the short demo that you provided today. Really exciting to see the stuff in action. So if you have to leave, please feel free to say hi to your two friends later. And thank you again for being a part of our Tech Talk today.
Thank you, guys.
No worries. Anyways, thank you. Thank you so much, Anne-Marie. Bye-bye.
Bye. So Anne-Marie was doing a good job guiding you guys. If you want to see each other more and switch on your cameras for the Q&A part of the last few minutes we have ahead of us, go to the top right and you can choose a grid layout so we can see more of each other. I already see a lot of you. And I think Agnieszka touched upon a point that was also important for Sophie. Maybe do you want to reiterate the questions from the chat or?
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I had two questions. And one of them is, I mean, it's really, really cool, like the speech to text feature. I can see how this could be really, really helpful. But at the same time, I wonder what happens with that information once it's captured, because I don't know if I would feel so compelled to speak freely if I knew that everything I said would be captured and then maybe used against me. And same with identifying the faces, like what happens with that information. Will I be tracked, like how many meetings I attend? And if I attend more meetings, will I be seen as a better employee? Will that somehow affect my future performance or development? So I guess the overall question is, what happens with the data that is captured?
Yeah. So I think I can jump on that one. So on the face recognition, as Anna-Marie was saying, and I've tried to say it as well, but because of the time, I might have been a bit quick. You have the full control of whether this data will be collected or not. And with data, it's really one picture that you are basically a picture of yourself that you're basically upload in the platform, and that picture will be moved into a mathematical representation of yourself. So this algorithm that will create your identity. So that picture, once it's uploaded, it stays there, and there will be no replication and nothing going around. So there is only just this very known identifiable algorithm about you that is floating around trying to match your face if you have opted in. But you can also say, no, I don't want to. So there is no use of those data outside the fact that we use them if you want to get your little people tag on it, and that's all. So if you want to have your name on meetings so that people understand who you are, you can then opt in. Otherwise, those data are not used for marketing purposes or for controlling purposes, are not be shared, and there is never your name. So even if this ends up in the name of, like, in the hands of a hacker, it's end-to-end encrypted, and it's just a mathematical number. So no one can no one will be able to make the connection between this mathematical number and yourself. And the same about the speech recognition. I mean, yeah, it's something you can start thinking about. Just recording this session, this will be recorded. So how are those data stored? And that's already like a way of exposing yourself and exposing what you're saying. Everything, at least with our platform, is end-to-end encrypted and highly secure. We also have a website which is called trust.cisco.com, where you can go into all the detail of how we manage the data that we collect, how they are encrypted, what type of encryption we use, in which countries they land. And on that, I can tell you that we are definitely state of the art when it comes to security. Yeah, just thinking about Switzerland and how very, very highly regulated company are actually choosing our solution because it's so secure, already shows that there is no concerns around it. But I do understand that you as a user are questioning it. But from a Cisco perspective, there is a lot of work done around protecting individual people, protecting PII data, complying to GDPR guidelines, and your own security. I hope that's answering your question. So there is a lot of power on you as an individual to choose what should be collected. And once it's collected, it will not be used for data mining or anything like that.
Very, very deep cultural change, I think, that's going on. And you said it yourself, I think the key word here, trust. So I want to pass the ball back to Michael, who touched upon this quickly in the beginning of this presentation. Maybe you want to dive a bit deeper into the trust topic, Michael. And also I want to pick up Julia and her question about, is there any cultural differences that you can tell as a great place to work? How important those drivers are? Is there variations from country to country, or are we just, universal as humans, and it's kind of a little bit the same for everybody.
Good. So let me start on the trust part. I guess that's one of the challenges and things that lay ahead of us, how those tools will be accepted, how they will be used, how you might hear bad stories about it. I guess from a user perspective, it's probably also the question, what is the purpose of the organization? If you're using a free tool in the internet that is somewhere around, you know that you pay by your data, and then the trust thing will be very tricky. Cisco will not be a free tool on that side, but on the other hand, you're also investing in an organization to ensure that trust and data protection. But I totally agree. I guess that is one of the big challenges. And probably picking up the motto I used earlier, is it perceived as help, like bring me the food? That's a good thing. Or is it perceived just as control? And that's probably the thin line that the tools need to find out. I guess that thing with having translations maybe in the tool, having the speech written and so on, that's really helpful. And on the other hand, some of the parts might just be perceived as control. So yeah, that will be one of the challenges. I can't give you the answer yet how it's going to happen, but I guess that's what Cisco and other organizations are working on, to develop tools that are really perceived as helpful. I guess only when they are perceived that way, they will be accepted and used midterm. So if an organization puts in some tools just to control people, people will not really accept and use them long term, and then will be like many high costs for not really a purpose behind it.
And maybe to add to this, I'm sorry, Michael, I think this concern of surfing is very pertinent, and I think it really depends on how the culture of the company is. If you're in a company that is really based on which is on a culture based on trust, you're not even thinking about what is happening with those data. If you're in a company where there is a lot of control, that is very hierarchy based, very centralized, managed, where they're looking at where you're working and how long you're working, then this question arises. And I think it will be then hard for a company to transform their workplace and modernize it without having this fundamental of trust in place, where people are not questioning, why are they doing this with me? Just to add, Michael, maybe you agree.
No, that's good. And then I pick up the second part of the question, which was around those, let's say, drivers of trust. I did show you some like purposes on which I would call like the general trends. And of course, you're right, there are differences by countries, by mentalities. If you look at data, for example, in Japan, it's all around the middle. It's unpolite to answer the extremes. If you look at South America, it's exactly the opposite. Everything is either fantastic or completely down at the moment. That's one thing. Then we also see differences by age, for example, different acceptance of technology and so on. So yeah, there are differences in the drivers. At the same time, some of those general trends really happening, at least in the European region. And some of the topics are also probably depending on, let's say, the wealthiness, the situation for people. You can take care of purpose much more if you don't need to work for the money just by itself. And that, of course, are all things that differ by country. And we have to admit, we also don't fully know yet how much Corona, for example, will influence all those topics. What we already see is the way of interacting, the way of finding good ways of working together. They will become much more important the next months of data, so to say. People got aware of it, what it means not to have interaction, not to have a direct conversation with your manager for about a year, things like that. We already saw it for Switzerland. The item, for example, when it gets about celebrating success together, that was really dramatically dropping down in the last year all over, because that was something hardly no organization was able to really fulfill and do together to celebrate some successes. So yeah, there will be changes. There are changes by region. I would say that topic of purpose, consistent leadership, and also communication is kind of global trends that will definitely go and stay there for most regions.
Thank you. So in the chat, we're still bouncing around the data, privacy, security issues. But I was wondering, maybe, Michael, if you could go a bit into detail while we're also approaching the end of the session, but you know us and our time management. So let's run 5 minutes over, and then we'll be still basically on time. Because I want you to maybe go a bit into what is the data you collect, like the survey. Maybe you can give just 2-3 examples of questions you ask, and then we kind of can combine it together with like the workplace data, for example, from Cisco, and see how that can be used to shape a better workplace.
So as by the quick overview, in general, we tend to involve employees because we know that these are the people who can give the real feedback. Absolutely right. Many other indicators have high influence, and just the topic of light, for example, I guess that was the starting point for psychology and social research at all in workplace topics. So these are all important things. Our topic is around, let's say, asking people how they perceive it. And you saw some of the question items when I showed you some of the results, but we want to find out exactly about those topics of trust, leadership style, communication style. That's what we are looking into. We use different tools there and also see different tools around. So most of what we use is, let's say, directly asking employees. But of course, there are also good ways of indirectly getting those informations by understanding, using artificial intelligence and so on. But then again, you need to find a good way of making that in a way like it should help and it shouldn't be control. So we also get companies asking, can we check all the chats that are happening after a management information session, and can we find out what people really think about it? And that again, yeah, it would be very interesting, but better don't do it that way. If you don't have a culture where you can ask people, then you have another issue. If you want to find out more about that, also about Cisco and so on, check out our websites. Companies are there also showing what they do and what they ask and items they are proud about. So Cisco will be up again in the system 26th of May. That's when we publish the next list of best workplaces, but feel free to check around there. And there you find also activities that companies have in place to build that trust and to make sure that they work together in a good way.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, looking at the time, I think this is also the point where we shall wrap up for today. We tried to become a little more snackable due to all the sessions happening. But it's just so damn interesting. And I want to thank Michael for being here, Clarissa for being here again. It's always fun to have you. And also to Cisco, just in general, maybe a little closing anecdote. I'm super excited that Adrian Brunner is here today. He's actually the main reason why we partnered with Cisco in the first place. Some time back, I interviewed him for a newspaper and he told me about Cisco's culture. And I just believed him. And everybody we've interacted since has really proven that you guys are, the future of work. You're already living it. So we are super happy to partner with you. Maybe this little side note before we close. And also, I wanted to let you know that we'll have a live academy coming up, if my screen sharing works. Amazing. So in June, we will dive even deeper into the topic of hybrid workplace. You've heard Clarissa, there is a business case there, but we also have to work on collaboration, culture, and all these things will be tackled in this format. So be sure to follow us on LinkedIn, in our newsletter, wherever, to receive this information. And it will be super cool to see a lot of you guys there. And with this, I want to close it for today. And I thank you all for being here for our third Tech Talk.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thank you. See you next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.